Alright, so I've never done a podcast in my life, so we're just gonna see how this goes. But I love knitting, and I've been kind of wanting to do like a vlog sort of thing for several years now, but until I got really back into knitting, I didn't really see the point besides just wanting to do it. But yeah, so I guess a little bit about where I'm at with knitting and where I come from. I've been knitting since I was about 10 years old or so. I'm 27 now, so 17 years kind of off and on knitting. And I actually learned from a book because I started learning before YouTube existed, which feels really weird to say. Because I did learn a lot from YouTube, but the knit stitch I believe my mom taught me. Someone got me a knitting kit, and I remember it was like this really beautiful like purple and blue variegated yarn, and it came with these really squeaky plastic gray straight knitting needles. And I used straight knitting needles for way too long. But anyways, so I was given this knitting kit, and I didn't use it for a long time. But then, at some point I just decided that I wanted to learn how to knit. So my mom taught me how to do the knit stitch, and the rest I learned by myself from that book. And that book that I'm referencing, I'll try to put it right there. But it was the Boy brand, and I remember there was this like red Afghan on the cover of it. It wasn't a very big book, but I remember it had a lot of really kind of, I don't want to say tasteless, ugly vintage patterns. At least I thought they were ugly at the time, but I kind of want to have that book back because I don't have it anymore, just so I could see if I like any of the patterns, because now I'm really interested in doing vintage patterns. I've been watching a lot of, what is it called, Engineering Knits. Her channel, she does a lot of, very old patterns, very vintage patterns, like with a knitting machine, and things like that. So, yeah, and speaking of channels, YouTube channels have really, YouTube has basically been my Lord and Savior when it comes to knitting. Right now is a very exciting time for me in my knitting journey because I'm finding so many young content creators my age, even younger, who are making these really cool and really trendy patterns that I like, because for a long time a lot of the free or knitting patterns in general that I was finding on the internet were kind of ugly. What I'm trying to say is that ever since YouTube came about, it's really been something I've come back to a lot. One channel in particular that has helped me so much over the years is Very Pink Knits. I reference their videos a lot, and I was referencing their videos back, when their channel was still pretty new. Highly recommend if you're needing to, refresh yourself on something like long tail cast on or mattress stitch or anything like that, because the way that the clarity in which she explains things is just fantastic, and can't recommend her enough. So I've blathered on a lot about YouTube and feeling kind of old, but what I really want to get into is showing off my whips. So there's this pattern that I have had for many years now. It was actually given to me by a relative when I first started knitting, and I actually have it Right here, it's Hiker's Waistcoat by the Fiber Company. And I won't open it up because it's I think it's a paid pattern. But yeah, you can kind of see there what it's supposed to look like. It's just, you've got seed stitch and then stockinette. It's pretty basic. You knit it, you knit the back first, and then you knit each front panel, and you can use a zipper or buttons. To be honest, even though I've been knitting this long, I have never done a zipper or buttons, and I've also never knit a sweater, so I'm a little behind. But anyways, here's the back. I'll try to show it off. Yeah. I feel like my stitch definition is pretty good at this point. You can kind of see my stitches. There are some twisted stitches, but as I've been doing this, I learned about that knitting through the back loop trick, which has basically fixed the problem anytime I run into twisted stitches. But yeah, I was really proud of finishing the back there. And where is it? Here's the left panel. Yeah, left side panel. And it fits my torso, I think. And I've got some live stitches here that are going to make up the collar. And what I'm working on right now is the right panel. And I also, this is so exciting, but I got a yarn bowl, my first yarn bowl, as well as it's on my desk. It's attached to my desk right now, but I got a winder, like a good winder, what is it, Stanwood winder. It was more affordable than I was expecting, so that's amazing. So I got to, come on, got to wind my yarn for the first time, which it feels really weird because, so like, most of my knitting journey has been just like knitting really tiny things, scarves. I actually crocheted a lot, especially as a teenager. I was really into amigurumi. I even did Etsy for a while, but that kind of, I realized that selling handmade knits was not really for me, because I don't like to feel pressured to knit for other people. So yeah, I stopped doing that, but I mean, I know how to crochet, but I just have kept coming back to knitting. Even though I keep coming back to knitting, I still haven't done, you know, things that I feel like I should have by this point. Like, on the one hand, it can feel a little bit disheartening to watch other knitters who've just started knitting in the past year or so and have knit like sweaters upon sweaters and just have done all this stuff, while this is my first like actual garment that's not an accessory or a hat. But at the same time, I mean, everyone's knitting journey is different, so I'm happy with where I'm at. And I think because I've been following so many creators these days, and I've been feeling really motivated to get better at knitting, I've really been pushing myself. So I will, oh, and one other thing about this project. So this is, I'm using, got hair on it. I'm using Lion brand Fisherman's Wool. This is what's left of my old ball of yarn. And when I say old, this ball of yarn is, I don't know exactly how old it is. It's probably at least 15 years old. So it's been aging in a box for at least that long. And so my pieces that I've knit with that old skein of yarn are kind of, they're really soft, which is great. But you've got like these little brown spots on them. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm hoping I can clean those out. And the color is a little bit darker than my new skein. So just to compare, I don't know if you'll be able to see, on the right, this is the new yarn. It's rougher and it's a lot brighter. And then this was using the old skein. So I had to buy a new skein because this was not going to be enough to knit the other panel. But that's okay. I mean, I know people say that, you know, don't buy from different dye lots if you can help it, but this time I can't time travel. So that's just going to be a quirk of this waistcoat, and I'm really excited. So I'll go ahead and show off my other whips. I'm also making my first pair of mittens. I don't know if I'm ever going to do gloves, because this might be enough for me. But I'm making a pair of Selbu mittens because I really love Fair Isle. I mean, I'm getting some really good practice in here. But yeah, I really love color work and I really want to get better at it. And yeah, one thing that this project has reminded me of is of how to work with color dominance and how to actually do Fair Isle as a thrower, because I learned English style, dropping the yarn, picking it up, wrapping it around, dropping it. I've gotten to a point where like I have it wrapped around my pinky and I'm like barely holding my needles, so I can knit for a lot longer now. God damn. My younger cat, he doesn't know when to stop. Hi, Cosmo. You look like you are thirsting for blood. So this is my last whip for now. It's the beginning of my first shawl. This is the Widdershins shawl by Sachiko Bee. I think that's their name. Yeah, so right now I have it on another piece of yarn because I only have one cord that's long enough for this, and actually I just remembered I have another whip for baby blanket, and that's what I'm using it for right now because that is time sensitive. I actually had cast this on, I think it was last week or the week before, and I wasn't really happy with it. I wasn't happy with the tension I was getting. I wasn't happy with just how everything was going, and I was originally following a pattern that I don't know if it was the yarn that it called for, but it just wanted me to do stockinette stitch the whole way, so it was curling. So I just decided I'm going to rip that out. I bought some size 11 needles, and I use Knitter's Pride because I'm a broke college student. So, but I really like how with Knitter's Pride needles, any of their line of needles will fit on their cords. So the cords I have, will work for any of their needles. But anyways, yeah, I had to buy some size 11s, and I'm liking this a lot more. So I started with the garter stitch edge, and I'm just gonna do a garter, like 3 stitches in garter on the sides, so that it looks even. And I'm using Bernat baby blanket in Raspberry Kisses. It's really nice. It's got like dark pink in it, it's got blue, it's got light pink. Yeah, kind of jealous. If there's any left over, maybe I'll make myself a baby blanket, even though I don't have a baby. So those are my whips. I'm not working on a ton of stuff right now, but I feel like I like having a few different... Cosmo! You're not supposed to chew on those. Dude, my cat just had one of my needles in his mouth. I love you, but you are just a ball of chaos. I love you. So, a recently finished project of mine is, he is just being so silly right now. Oh my god. So a recently finished project of mine was my very own pair of socks. I had knit a practice sock before. It was okay, it didn't fit very well, but it taught me how to knit a sock, and then I just didn't make any socks for a long time, I don't know. There was a really long time that I didn't knit, but when I came back to knitting, I knit my fiance a pair of socks. Just I used Patton's wool worsted, and I followed the Rye sock pattern by Tin Can Knits, which was a really, really nice sock pattern for really getting in the flow of making socks. So when I decided to also make myself a pair, I decided to get some actual sock yarn. You can see it up close. It's a really pretty purple color. This is, what is this? Cascade Heritage Sock, I believe. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. But yeah, and then I also used a tiny circular. I actually have a couple tiny circulars. For the worsted socks, I used these size 4 ones. You can kind of see. Focus. There we go. No, it doesn't want to focus. But, and then these really tiny ones I used for the sock yarn. These are, how do you say it, Chiaogu needles. They were pretty affordable, I felt like, for needles that will probably last me forever. But I'm really happy with these and how they fit, and I slept with them recently. Even though it's summer, I still get cold, and yeah, they were insanely comfy. I followed the Rye Light sock pattern for these. So yeah, they have like they have a worsted weight sock pattern and a light sock pattern for sock yarn. So yeah, that was really cool to kind of just do the same thing, except, well, I didn't follow the pattern exactly because it has you do like a garter stitch on the front here, but I chose not to. And I did the shorter cuff instead of a longer cuff because I don't wear long socks. So yeah, socks. And speaking of socks, I am so excited. I've been following Stone Knits because they came out with it was like yesterday, I believe, they came out with a flamingo sock pattern and a shrimp sock pattern. I think they're called Shrimply the Best socks, and they really are fantastic socks that I want to make right now, but I have too many things that are time sensitive. The Wittershins shawl I would really like to finish before my wedding. I'm getting married in September, and I just thought it would be really cool to wear it at the wedding because it's like kind of a very tail end of summer wedding, almost a fall wedding. So I'm thinking it'll probably start getting a tiny bit chilly in the evening where I live. So it'd be really nice to have something warm and pretty and handmade to wear on my special day. I will show you the alternate color. This is the alternate color. It is absolutely gorgeous. It's the lighting's not perfect, so you can't totally see, but it's like a burnt orange rust sort of color. And I felt like this with the dark blue would look really well as like sort of a celestial vibe, because that's what the shawl is going to be. It's going to have moons and stars along the edge, and that's what this is going to be. And of course the baby blanket, I want to finish that by September, which I think I can because I've been knitting a lot lately, and I'm about to graduate college. So yeah, that'll free up some mental bandwidth, and I'll probably want to knit even more this summer. Yeah, unfortunately I probably won't be able to make any actual summer knits because of the time sensitive like big knits like the blanket and the shawl, and just like really wanting to finish this pattern that I've had for so long, and I just want to do it. What are you doing? My cat is being silly. So I don't totally know what I'm doing. I'm kind of just talking, and I hope that this kind of becomes an outlet for me to just info dump and connect with other knitters, because I've been really wanting to do that, but it can be kind of hard on Instagram when you know, you're just messaging people, you're not seeing them face to face or anything like that. So I find it easiest to connect with people when I can see them talk about their knitting and, you know, see their emotions and everything. But yeah, some other things I'd really like to talk about are things I would like to knit in the future. There are so many patterns that I've accumulated or have on my wish list, like on Ravelry. I'm especially fond of Fable Knits. I don't know how to say their name, but yeah, I recently followed a knitting YouTuber who is really into Fable Knits, and it kind of, I knew of them, but I wasn't intimately familiar with their style of knitwear design, but now I'm obsessed, and I really want to make the Diagon Alley jumper, and I also would love to make the Oxford jumper, because one thing that I've struggled with finding knitwear that I feel like would fit my body is that I have a very, if you're familiar with the Kibbe body typing system, I'm a dramatic classic, which means I've got a lot of angularity to my bone structure, but it's also very balanced, like my proportions are very balanced. So I'm very average, but with, I guess you'd say like they'd say a touch of yang, touch of angularity, dramatic drama, whatever. So like I tend to favor geometric shapes. Sorry, my camera stopped recording. But yeah, I favor like V-necks and square necklines and stripes and just things that like complement my shoulders, which you see my shoulders are very, very square, and I'm a tiny person and I'm very easily swallowed by clothes. Like big chunky sweaters, like I can get away with some sort of chunky sweaters, but they tend to swallow me up. And I'm trying to steer away from that. And that's hard to do with knitwear. So yeah, I'm really trying to find things that will fit me very well and flatter my features, my angular features. So that's why I'm really drawn to Fable knitwear and like more vintage designs in general with the square neckline. But I also want to experiment with sort of cottagecore styles like puffy sleeves. And that's actually why I really like the Oxford jumper, is because it has that square, I think it has a square neckline and like puffy sleeves. It's absolutely fantastic. But so yeah, I want to knit those and the shrimp socks, of course. And right, I forgot. I bought yarn because I'm trying to design like a really long Fair Isle stocking cap. And I have the yarn for it, but things have come up that have distracted me and I can't get to it yet. But I'm hoping to at least start that probably by the end of the year. I know I'm going to be knitting a lot probably on my honeymoon, which I'm going to the UK for, and I'm really hoping to buy some yarn while I'm over there. It'll be my first time. So maybe I'll start it while I'm on my honeymoon, but I don't know. I don't know about bringing color work. Maybe. I don't do like the one strand in each finger or like anything fancy like that. I'm just a messy English knitter. I don't know, I probably should stop talking for my first video. Other things I'd probably like to get into in the future are maybe sustainable knitting, affordable, accessible knitting, because yeah, I can't really afford to buy large amounts of yarn. I wish I could, but yeah, I want to explore more, I guess, affordable ways to get yarn. Maybe share like how I've accumulated yarn over the years, which I really don't have very much yarn, to be honest. Like I have one kind of tote like this big with my acrylics, and I have one about that big with, and it's not even full, and then one about that big which is a little bit more full with all my wool and wool blends, and then I have a little tiny bag with my cottons, and that's it. I don't have a ton of yarn, and I like to keep it that way. I don't like to have too much stuff in general. I'm regularly donating things I don't need, so kind of sharing my love of knitting from like kind of more of a, I don't want to say minimalist, but like from perspective of kind of trying not to have a big stash, and trying to save money as best I can and all that. Also, I'd love to talk a little bit about what it's like to have ADHD and be a knitter, because it can be very difficult, but it's also, I think, it's a really great craft to have with ADHD, because it's so exciting to start something new and to find new patterns, and there's always new things to discover with knitting, so it never gets boring. But I'd love to go more into that in a future video if I keep doing these and I don't lose interest, because I was really hesitant to start filming this because I lose interest in things, and that fear of losing interest it can hold me back. So, but my fiance is very encouraging, and I also try to encourage myself, so I'm just sitting down and doing it, and it's like 12:30 at night, so it's It's fine. Last but not least, I wanted to show off a little bit of inspiration. I've been looking for, and I'll cover my name, I've been looking for this book, and I found it at one of my local libraries, and it's got these amazing patterns in it. Like, look at that. Look at that. So, if I do end up starting one of these patterns, which this is the one I want to do, this is Catherine Parr, the Catherine Parr sweater. And this designer, their name is Alice Starmore. I love to start stuff like that, but I feel like I really should actually do a plain sweater first before I do anything like that. So hopefully that's on the horizon, and I'm gonna stop rambling now. I think that's been enough info dumping for now, and this was actually more fun than I expected, just talking to a camera. But yeah, I just love knitting, and I'll probably do another one of these. So, see you later.